Joan Quinn Profiles. As an editor for Andy Warhol's Interview, the Los Angeles Herald-Examiner, LA Style, and Detour magazines, Joan covered the social set, the Hollywood hotshots, the international art scene, the mysteries of food, the excitement of travel, and the fabulous world of fashion. Joan continues to find creative people on the cutting edge who make things happen. Here's Joan Agajanian-Quinn.
Hi, I'm Joan Agajanian-Quinn, and welcome to the Joan Quinn Profiles. In the studio is Chef Beth Ginsberg and author Margie Haber. Author-chef Beth Ginsberg was born in Philadelphia, moved to New Jersey, New York City, and Miami. She moved around a lot. During her junior year, she went abroad, and her taste in food changed. What happened, Beth?
Well, I went abroad, and actually at that time I was eating a lot of high-fat foods, but I really got into cooking, and I was exposed to different things around the world.
Were you in junior year in college or junior year in high school?
Junior year in college.
In college.
Yeah, so it was, I was exposed to French cooking and Spanish cooking. It was wonderful.
Well, were you ever thinking of having a career in cooking that point?
No, at that time it was more like of a creative outlet. I was an English major and studying foreign languages. And I used to cook for fun, for creativity.
I see. And then, how long were you doing that? Did you ever use your English?
My English, I've used it writing my book, actually. It does come in handy.
But did you ever teach or do
Well, I never
anything?
taught English, no. I've taught cooking. See, so it all comes back to you, it comes around.
So you became a chef.
Well, yeah, I came back from Europe and graduated college, and then I decided I want to be a chef.
And you did decide that?
Yeah, and so I went to the Culinary Institute of America.
I see. Which one?
The one in Hyde Park, New York.
And was it hard to get in?
At that time it was. There weren't a lot of women there, but what I did was go to Philadelphia, and I worked at the Fairmont Hotel, which was the one that had Legionnaires. It was the Bellevue Stratford, and it just turned to the Fairmont. And I apprenticed with a very well-known Austrian chef, and then he wrote a letter, and I got in.
So that was... Why weren't there women there? Was it too hard?
Well, actually, women are the ones doing the cooking at home, but when it comes to work, it used to be like old school European people, and and it was a male-dominated profession, and women just kind of started sneaking in there.
Do you think it was because it was difficult, or just because it was a historic kind of thing?
Well, I think a little bit of both. I mean, it is a lot of physical work. You have to. I do work out. I mean, you want your physical. You got to be strong. It's hard work.
After you became a chef, you opened a restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
Was that your first restaurant?
Yeah.
And how did it caught on? It was celebrity filled. And how did you feel about owning, cooking, taking care of your guests? How was that?
I loved it. It was a great energy experience. What happened was we had a low budget to put it together. We opened it on Fairfax. I had all my artist friends come in and do the painting and help decorate the restaurant. And it was all natural foods. And so we offered soy and tofu, but we also offered chicken and fish, and we offered Coke and health food soda for all the people in Hollywood, so they all came in to eat. It was fun.
How did that get started? It has to get started somehow.
I think, what happened? Madonna came in with Jean-Paul Gaultier, and the editor of W Magazine was in there with my sister, actually, and they were, it was W Magazine. Gaultier was there. They wrote a big piece, and then everyone started coming in.
And then that started the ball rolling.
Yes.
Were you, excuse me, were you thinking of writing a cookbook then?
No, I was into the whole experience of having the restaurant and interacting with my guests. So I wasn't thinking of writing a book at that time.
Well, you don't still have the restaurant, right?
No, I don't.
So what happened, and how do we get to Taste for Living?
Well, like everyone in Hollywood, I have an agent too, and I had just had a baby, and I got a phone call, and the agent was saying, Beth, Michael Milken needs a personal chef. And I said, well, who is Michael Milken, and can he afford a chef? And so that's how I met Michael, and she said, everyone in town wants the job. And so I was very relaxed. I met him, and we started working together, and you know, I was turned on to the different nutritional doctors, and I would cook for everybody, and he has lots of interesting people coming over.
But you were already into that if you were serving it in your restaurant, right?
I was into it. That's what the great hookup was. I didn't know all the nutritional benefits. He did, but he wasn't eating that way, but needed to change his diet.
I see.
And then he said, you have to write a book. And I said, well, I want to write a book, but I insist that it has lots of photographs in it. I like the Martha Stewart books, and ironically, she wrote the foreword in my new book, and which was a great experience. And so that's how it came about.
So the first book was The Taste for Living Cookbook.
Right.
And it says Mike Milken's favorite recipes for fighting cancer.
Right.
But was he already sick?
He had been diagnosed with advanced prostate cancer and only given 18 months to live. And this is 5 years later. And he changed his diet. And he attributes a lot of that to his diet because there's so much research being done with diet and cancer right now. So these are favorite recipes for fighting cancer, but they're actually favorite recipes for everyone to eat because...
But it must have worked. Is he really good? Does he really stick to this diet?
Oh yeah, because there's really nothing that he has to give up on this diet. You know, because we've got
I know, we have brownies. Tell us about the brownies. I mean, I can't believe those brownies are on somebody's diet. They look so great.
You know what? They're brownies, and they have absolutely no added fat in them. They're let's see, low-fat cocoa powder. There's tofu in them, cocoa, soy milk, flour, natural sweetener, vanilla, but no butter. There's applesauce in them. And then the top is like a glaze with rice syrup and low-fat cocoa powder.
So what's missing? The fat? Is that what it would be?
The butter's missing. The whole eggs are missing. There's only egg whites in there.
I see.
The dairy products are missing from that. And it's, you know, replaced with tofu.
And how does
the chocolate, it's low-fat cocoa powder, fat-free cocoa powder.
But so it's not carob or anything like that?
No.
You don't use that.
Well,
so it actually tastes like chocolate, I guess.
Oh, you want one? You want to try one?
I do, but not right. Shall I try now? Okay, I'll try one.
Have a bite. Okay. And then you can be the judge of that. I think they're really moist, and they hold up pretty good.
I didn't want to eat it because I thought it was probably not very tasty.
But it is tasty, isn't it?
Very tasty. Chewy.
Well, we've made these with kids, like 5-year-olds, and they love those.
Well, that was one of the things I was going to talk to you about. How are you going to break down the palates of America because they're used to eating fat, eggs, butter, all the things that you don't use in that?
Well, I think, you know, just the recipes in the book alone help do that because this tastes like a normal brownie. You know, we work with children and they help make the things. They like the way they taste. My daughter eats those at home.
But if you get used to eating them, you don't even remember what the other things tasted like. No,
and you know what? I really got into cooking without fat after I had my daughter because I needed to lose weight. I'd gained like 25 pounds. And you know, so once I took the fat out, I just started losing the weight.
Now tell us, we have a Caesar salad.
It's Caesar salad. And that again has, you know, the dressing in Caesar salad is a high-fat dressing. Well, this, you know, doesn't have any egg yolks in it. It has miso in it. And and it has
miso, Japanese.
Yeah, the miso paste. And I use that in place of anchovies and eggs. Yeah. And it doesn't have Parmesan, it has soy Parmesan in it. Lemon juice.
Spicy.
Yeah, black pepper, garlic, tons of garlic, because I like garlicky Caesar.
But that also, I can taste the lemon.
Yeah.
So you can taste all the things that make that salad jump.
Right.
Jumps out of the bowl.
You know what? And we did an event, and we had another restaurant next to us doing regular Caesar, and we were doing fat-free Caesar, and we sold 300, and they sold 50, and I was shocked.
Because people love the taste, because it's heavy on lemon and garlic, and that's what people like in their salad, and it's clean.
Yeah.
There's like no after.
And you don't have, you know, when you eat lighter food, you don't feel heavy afterwards. You feel better.
Now, we talked about these, and these recipes came from A Taste for Living.
Right.
The new book, the second book,
right.
New book. The second book is A Taste for Living World.
Right.
And it has recipes from Mexico, Spain, Japan,
Italy,
all over Italy.
And then regional United States food also. And that's really, you know, they say in your life things all come back to you. Well, I lived in Europe, and that's when I tried all those other foods, and I have been writing, you know, in my book to my English degree. And this just shows that anything, you can do any kind of food healthy without fat and with soy.
Well, like this has what on the front? Pasta,
It has
burritos.
ravioli, yeah, fajitas, ravioli. You know, we have all kinds of things. We have Indian food in here.
Is Mr. Milken still eating this kind of food?
Oh yeah, he is. He ate it today. He had Indian food.
Does he like the influence of European or
yeah.
different countries?
You know, he likes eating all kinds of food. Like everybody, he likes different flavors, and he doesn't like to get bored. You know, he's a very good eater. I have to say that about him.
That's what makes it good for a chef, doesn't it?
Yes.
Somebody that really loves it. In this, we talk about you talk about Japan, Far Eastern food, and we have a bowl of
edamame,
yeah. Either way, and they're beans.
They're soybeans.
They're soybeans.
And you know what?
So is this soybean? Are these the things that the brownies are made out of?
Well, the brownies are made from tofu.
Okay.
I didn't take those and grind them up. And the tofu is made from soybeans, from pressed soybeans.
So it would be made from this,
yes.
actually.
Well, these are the fresh ones, and the tofu's made from the dried ones. But that's the original bean.
Would you put these in salads?
I put those in salads. I put them in risotto. I put them in anything I'm just going to use peas in. I put them in.
And what's the difference between these and peas?
Well, these have a lot of isoflavones in it. So actually, when you're eating the soybeans, you're getting isoflavones and, you know, cancer-fighting elements.
Do those really work? Does it really work if you eat broccoli and the Swiss chard and the things that you talk about?
Well, you know, that's what the experts, the medical experts that I work with tell me. And, you know, I have to believe them.
So they isolate those certain things from...
Yeah, but I think, you know, you want to have, I mean, peas are good for you too. I'm not saying peas aren't, but I'm just saying I like to add different ingredients in.
One of the things, if you had a bowl of these around instead of potato chips, could you just eat them the same way?
Totally.
You get used to it?
I think you get used to it. These are a lot, like if you put a little salt on those, these are unsalted, totally, because it's the salt.
Okay?
Yeah.
So you start, one other thing I wanted to ask you. We were talking about Swiss chard. You put Swiss chard in soup.
Right.
You put vegetables in soup. And you boil them to death. I mean, because they're in the soup for a long time. Do they still have vitamin qualities?
First of all, I don't boil them to death. And if I'm adding like Swiss chard, it's normally steamed right before I throw it into the soup. I don't boil the vegetables.
But when you put soup on it, most people have a big pot of soup going, and they keep it...
But the vitamins will get into the soup that way because you're not pouring the liquid out. It's only when you're pouring the liquid out.
I see. So it still stays nutrient.
Yeah, but but I still don't boil it forever. I don't cook my soups that long.
So just tell me, I know the books are done for the charity, and it's
CAP Cure.
CAP Cure. And what does that stand for?
That is for the cure of prostate cancer.
So it's CA for cancer and
P
for prostate. Okay, one other thing. If we don't have soy, if we can't have soy, people don't want to eat these. Do you have any other tips about what to eat or how to eat?
And they want to get soy in their diet, but they don't want to eat this. I think they should have a shake every day.
Or they should have soy in their diet.
Well, they should have soy in their diet, definitely. And if you know, there's all different forms. So you got to find out, well, what's that person's particular eating habit, and how can I sneak it in if they're if they're one of these people? Oh, I don't want to have soy.
But you think it's really necessary to every diet?
I do. I definitely do.
We're going to take you up on this.
Yeah.
Because I think sitting and eating something like this is just so much better. It seems clean.
Right. You know what? And if someone came to your house for dinner and you served Caesar salad and the spaghetti bolognese from the Taste for Living World cookbook, they wouldn't know the difference. And you made some brownies, they would not know that the stuff had soy in it. They could be sitting there telling you, I don't want to eat soy, and they would be eating it. We've done that.
And it would be good.
And it would be great.
It would be good for them.
Better than good. It would be great.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're glad we learned this all today. Thanks very much for being with us, Beth Ginsberg. I'm sorry I've been eating on the show.
That's good.
This. And we'll be back with Margie Haber.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and we're back with author-teacher Margie Haber. She was born in New York and received a bachelor's degree in English and drama from Ithaca College and a master's degree in speech pathology from Brooklyn College.
Easy for you to say.
She headed for Los Angeles and stayed there in the 70s and 80s and became an actress, didn't you?
Yeah, it's hard to remember back in those days. It's so long ago, but
And
yeah.
you taught at the Lee Strasberg Institute.
I did.
What were you teaching?
Well, actually, at that time in 1970, which is so long ago, I can't hardly remember, I was a speech therapist. You know, it was like a United Nations there. Yeah, simple time and says, like a Wowie Pops.
I see.
It was like a United Nations because all these people came from all over the world to study there. And I started doing speech. I was doing cold reading, but not as much. I was really teaching them how to speak, which is actually how I created my technique.
The
phrase technique, the Haber phrase technique.
But you were still acting.
I was acting. I did Emergency and Mod Squad and all those wonderful shows at the time.
But with a degree in speech
Pathology.
that helped. Speech pathology. I can't say it
Easy
either.
for you to say.
But drama. So
Yeah.
you did know you were going to act. I mean, you did think about that.
Well, I always wanted to act. By my mother, I came from the 5 towns, and my mother said, you have to have something to fall back on, Margie. So I knew that I was going to be an actress, at least I wanted to be, but my mother wanted me to be a teacher. I started out acting and then teaching at the same time. I always loved teaching, always loved it.
Did they have a class at the Strasberg Institute? I mean, was it a class in speech?
I was teaching people how to get rid of their accents. You know, many people came to me and they'd come from Europe and Germany and they would talk like this and they would speak like this. And truthfully, you know, that's not how we learn. We learn in phrases. We talk in groups of words. So what I would teach them is to teach in group of words, which is where Haber phrase technique came into play.
I see. So did you continue to act while you were teaching?
Taught, act, you know. I was actually up for the part of the daughter of Maud with Norman Lear, and it was to myself and Adrienne Barbeau. And I think if I had gotten that, I was so green. I did not know how to audition. I knew nothing. And if I had gotten that, I think what would have happened is I probably would have stayed in that direction as an actress. But I was very green. I didn't know what I was doing.
Why did you come to Los Angeles instead of going to New York?
Well, actually, I was taking a singing lesson in New York with, I was singing at the time.
Were you?
Yes, and this woman, this fabulous woman comes in. Her name is Mary Wilson from the Supremes.
Ooh.
In 1968. And I was so excited. I mean, there's Mary Wilson, right? You know, the most incredible Supremes. And I loved her, and she loved me, and she said, and we became best friends. And one day, she said to me, Margie, why don't you move to California? I said, I can't. She says, why not? I said, I don't have the bread. She said, you'll live with me. So in 1970, I moved out here, really just, I thought for the summer, just kind of for fun. It turned out I lived here for now 30 years. Thank you very much.
So
and she's
that's
the one
what
who got me to move here.
You did start in New York then. Were you on stage? Did you think you'd do stage?
I did. I was a singer at the time.
So you were.
I loved singing. I did nightclubs and I did musical comedy, but I had not. I was very young, you know. I was early 20s, and I was always excited about it. And I'd never been to Hollywood, never been to California.
So you were talking about you started teaching, you developed phrase, you developed something about cold reading,
Right.
auditions.
Yeah.
And
That's
you
my thing.
copyrighted it.
Yeah.
How can you copyright something like that?
Well, I don't know. It became something very special that no one else has ever done.
It's so strange that you can copyright like phrases of words in a way. It's things.
Well, people freak out about auditioning. You know, it's a very scary thing.
Tell us what it is, really,
Okay,
just
auditioning?
basically. Yeah.
My technique?
Basically. No, what an audition is when someone
Audition
has
is
to go.
you get a call from your agent. You say, you need to be at this place at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. You go pick up your sides, which is actually a scene.
So where do you go to pick that up?
Well, either you get them from your agent, or you get them from a fax now. People fax everything now.
Right,
Right, and you get this, and then you work on it for maybe half an hour, 2 hours,
Before
depending
you
how much
go.
time
Before
have.
you go.
And then you have to do a reading. You have to be able to pick these sides up and really connect to the truth of what the character is feeling, and it's very difficult.
So sides are pieces of paper.
Sides is actually a scene, 3 or 4
I see,
pages,
okay.
and most people wing it, and most people memorize it, which I'm totally against.
Okay, so you got a technique, and you wrote a book.
I wrote a book.
How to get the part without falling apart.
Yeah.
So what first
I'm very excited
part
about
of technique do you teach? What's the
to-
first part?
Well, you know, the first thing I do, as far as this book is concerned and everything, is I teach people to be specific. Most people are very general. They pick up the sides, the scene,
Uh-huh.
they look at it and they go, I'll just go in and do it. And they don't have anything. I teach a 10-step method of how to break the sides down. So you're starting out with relationship, then going to intention in various 10 steps. And then I teach you how to use the paper.
One of the things you say is, get rid of the paper, get rid of the paper. But people like to hang on to papers.
No, actually, I believe in keeping the paper.
You do?
No, the thing is, I believe you should never memorize. You should keep the paper, even if you're going on a callback, even if you're going up to, you need to keep the paper. The thing is, you learn how to use the paper properly.
What's a callback?
Callback is, you went on an audition, and you get a call from your agent saying, guess what? You're going back, they liked you, they want to see you again. So it's a second time going, usually to see a director, the producers. The first time is the casting director.
So does your technique work for the callback?
Yes.
Okay, so tell us a little bit, what was the first thing? Intention?
Well, the first thing you should know when you pick up the sides,
Right.
when you break it down,
Right.
there's a 10-step. The first thing you always want to know is, what's my relationship? What do I feel about you? Do I like you as the other character?
Oh,
Okay?
is the other character.
So if I am
what
reading
if
with
you're
you,
alone? What if you're alone?
doing a monologue,
Well, I mean, what if do they always have someone read with
okay,
you?
I'll set it up for you.
Tell me what
you
happens.
you come into the room, and usually there's a casting director sitting where you are. And they say, are you ready? And you go, I'm ready. And you pick up the scene, it's in your hand, and they have a scene too. All
Oh,
right?
so she's holding it.
So you're
I'm
holding the
it.
scene, but you don't read very good. You're not a really good reader.
Right.
And let's face that. And you pick up the scene, and you hold the scene, and you and I do this together, like you are the other character.
I see.
And I have to be able to figure out what my relationship is with you.
And you don't know it before you come in. All you have is this one scene. You don't know if you've known me for a long time.
Well, sometimes
Do
I know.
do you make this? Can you make these things in your mind?
You have to create. It's
Do
all
you
your
create it?
imagination.
Yeah.
85% of auditioning is
So
imagination.
you teach workshops.
Yeah. In
So
Hollywood.
is this how you do the workshop? Is this how you teach it in essence?
Yeah, well, there are usually only 12 people in a class, and it goes on for like 5 or 6 hours. It's very long and intense. On camera.
Is that right?
It's on camera, and you have to learn specifically how to break the sides down. And this Haber phrase technique of staying on the paper, getting off at the right time so you're not eye-bopping and
Haber phrase technique.
Do you want me to teach you?
Well, I don't think I can learn right now, but you've taught Tom Arnold, Halle Berry,
Heather Locklear.
Kelly Preston.
Kelly's just a great movie.
Do they come to you and say, I've got to audition? They don't audition, do they?
Well,
Those people don't audition.
not all of them do now, and I taught them when they were auditioning. When Heather Locklear was in my
way
class.
before.
well, Halle I taught last year. Halle Berry. She was going up for a movie with Brad Pitt.
And she'd
And we
already
worked.
been acting, right?
Oh yeah, she's been working a long time.
So what do you teach someone who's been working a long time?
Well, if it's a specific audition,
Right.
all right, they're coming in to do a movie, so they'll bring me the sides, and then I show them how to break it down, and I give them a specific method of working on this particular scene. So they have to. I teach them all of the 10 steps: the relationship, the intention, the history. all
So
that stuff.
each breakdown has those 10 steps.
Right.
And you interpret each breakdown.
That's right.
Each step.
That's right.
A different way.
I'm a
In a
detective.
way, right?
Yes. What I am basically is a detective. And I teach you how to look at the scene and say what the scene's really about. And we work together on it. So if you had a movie that you're up for, then I would work with you on that movie and that particular scene.
So, say you worked with Brad Pitt.
A long time ago when he was up for Thelma and Louise.
Oh, way long ago.
Well,
Had
now
a
he
small
doesn't.
part,
Great part.
but a small part.
Right.
So he had to figure out how he was going to play that part. It was
Right.
memorable because that was his
That was the beginning.
break, right?
Well, actually, I had two interesting stories. I had two clients at the same time that were up for that series. The
Same
film.
part?
That's right. Michael Easton and Brad Pitt. And my job was to give them the structure and to give them a specific technique and then to encourage their personality to come through, which is what made the difference.
Is it like an acting class? Are we talking about it as an acting class? Would you take an acting class and then you take your how to get the part class?
I teach an acting class, but it's an audition class for film and television and theater, basically. And it covers, you do need to know how to, quote, act.
So before they come to you, you have to know how to act.
Yeah. Well, in my studio, I have different levels. I have a basic class, beginners. I have intermediate, and I have advanced. I have 8 teachers that teach for me there.
Oh, you do?
Yeah,
oh,
it's
you
a
have
big
a lot.
thing.
You have a lot of.
And I go to New York. I teach in New York. I teach in San Francisco. I teach in Chicago. I teach all over Germany.
Do you teach in Europe too?
I teach in Europe.
And you still getting rid of accents?
Well, no,
Or are
'cause
you
I don't do
teaching?
that anymore. Nah, I let that go. Now I don't teach that.
So you don't do that?
No, not
Well,
actively.
what are some of, I know in the book you've talked about some of the nightmare stories that
Right.
people come for auditions. Is that?
There's some great night. Well, there's also some fun ones. I'll tell you. I'll share a great one that. Are you familiar with Von D. Curtis Hall from Chicago
Yes.
Hope?
In fact,
In fact,
I have a photograph of him right
that's
here.
my Von D. He's so sweet. Actually, I've been teaching him off and on for 7 years. Since he was when he was in
how
New York.
much can you keep learning?
Well, you never stop learning. Life is all growth.
The same,
I say it's
but
all a process.
you don't learn the Haber process, the Haber phraseology, and that's the end of it?
Well, but there's 2 parts of it. There's the phrase technique, and there's also the 10 steps of breaking it down. So, do you want to hear my Von D. Curtis Hall
I do.
story?
Shall I hold him up again? No, we already have him.
We have Von D.
We already have him.
Von D, so here's the story, because I do love this. This is one of my stories in my book, because the story has pictures and audition stories. So Von D goes to do this movie, right? And he goes into this, he's auditioning for this big film. And he goes in there, and he's working really hard on it. He's holding the scene like he's supposed to, and he's connecting to the relationship. And it starts getting a little dark in the room. And he remembers, what does Margie say? No matter what happens, if it's an obstacle, whatever, keep using it. And he's doing it more and more. It's getting more intense and more intense, and it's getting darker and darker and darker in the room. And it's getting more intense and more intense, and all of a sudden, it goes black. And the director comes over and says, Von D, you're leaning on the dimmers.
Oh, he kept moving back and kept going at
Kept
it.
going against the wall. By the time it was finished, it was on the wall. I couldn't get off the wall. And that's kind of a fun story.
Do you
that happens.
teach a different technique for stage or TV or film?
No, it's basically the same. It's about using yourself and coming from the truth and a structure to help that come through.
If somebody picked up this book,
Yeah.
could they do it by themselves? It's a
Well,
self-help book, obviously.
Yeah. Well, again, this book is made of 3 parts, okay? There's a psychological part of auditioning, okay? There's the 10-step method, and then there's the Haber phrase technique. So it's all involved in a lot of things. And the third part, which is what you're talking about, the phrase technique, there are samples of different types of monologues where you can go over and realize when your eyes are supposed to be up and when they're supposed to be down, and how you allow this life to come up and bring this to you.
So phrases, reading in phrases.
Learning to read in phrases.
I mean,
Rather
they're
than
teaching first graders. I mean, they're teaching reading
Exactly.
like that now, where they used to teach word for word for word.
Now they're teaching in phrases.
Now I have to learn how to read in phrases.
I'll teach you. No problems, Joan. No problem.
Margie, thanks for coming on today.
Thank
and
you for
lots of
having
good
me.
luck. Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Thanks for watching the Joan Quinn Profiles. Keep writing. If you want to know anything else about phrasing, write to 777 South Figueroa, 40th floor, Los Angeles 917. And we'll see you next time on the Joan Quinn Profiles.